WWE Crown Jewel is this Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific. It's coming to you from Perth, Australia. It is the first Crown Jewel of the 7 events to not be in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But, it feels like it's in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And the reason I say that is because it's in Perth, Australia. And Perth, Australia, well, boy, how did they end up in Perth, Australia? There's Sydney, there's Tokyo, there's Bologna, Italy, there's New York City. Of all the places in the world, how did they end up in Australia? And specifically Perth, Australia, a place they just were last 2 years ago, right? For Elimination Chamber, right? Well, I'm going to give you a guess, right? There's a reason why they're not in Melbourne or Sydney or Tokyo or the places I mentioned, right? All the places in the world they could go, and they're in one specific city, in one specific country that they just were 2 years ago. And it has to do with and ends with one word, money. Right? So that's why this kind of feels similar to how they essentially go to every single place they go to. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, right? They could be going, the Middle East is a big place, right? If they're like, hey, we're trying to expand outside of North America and we're trying to go all over the world. Well, the Middle East has got a lot of places, right? But somehow, some way, they seem to miss Cairo, Egypt, right? They seem to miss Dubai. They seem to miss Qatar. They seem to just always end up in Jeddah and Riyadh. I wonder exactly how that happened. Just coincidence, right? But this Crown Jewel is in Perth, Australia. And the reason it's in Perth, Australia and not Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where this event essentially originated, right? The term Crown Jewel is so synonymous with, right, Saudi Arabia. Like those events that are in Saudi Arabia, right, have those similar names, right? Like a Crown Jewel. As we've seen before, or the Night of Champions kind of thing, or something that's got that kind of that royal tie to it. But the reason, right, I imagine that it is not in Riyadh is because Riyadh is going to be getting an additional PLE this upcoming year in just about 3 months' time that they don't normally get, and that is the Royal Rumble. So with the Royal Rumble going to be in Riyadh, don't worry. So don't get all worried that Riyadh, Saudi Arabia isn't going to have a pay-per-view anytime soon, because they're getting the biggest one until they get the even bigger one the following year with WrestleMania. But they're getting the biggest one that they can for now, which is the Royal Rumble. So I guess they're going to let Crown Jewel go somewhere else so they can diversify, the events and make money, extra elsewhere. So they're going to Perth, Australia, like I mentioned, where they had gone just 2 years ago for Elimination Chamber, where Rhea Ripley is not from, because she's from the other side of Australia, but she is essentially the hometown gal, so she'll be featured in this event, just like she was in the main event at Elimination Chamber, where she defeated Nia Jax to retain her women's championship at the time in 2024. But Crown Jewel is this weekend. It is the second Crown Jewel that's kind of centered around this Crown Jewel Championship. We saw this last year, and I imagine these championships are still going to be held in the WWE Experience kind of museum, Hall of Fame thing they got going on in Riyadh. So even though this is happening in Australia, these Crown Jewel Championships will still be preserved in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, but it is champion versus champion style, similar to how we used to see like Survivor Series before War Games, right? So we're used to this kind of champion versus champion thing, where we have an event where it's kind of an exhibition, if you will. The titles aren't on the line. It is a made-up title, similar to like what we see with like professional sports, where you win it, you're the champion for the time being, but then your season starts over, you relinquish the title, and you're the champion, but it's not a nightly thing that you defend. You don't defend the Crown Jewel Championship. You just win it. You claim to be it for the year, which Cody Rhodes claimed last year, right? And so did Liv Morgan. She won't be able to defend it this year, as we know. But you win it, you claim it, and you move on with the stories. And it's the final PLE in WWE before the Survivor Series, which I imagine there might be some of the champions not defending their championship, like a Seth Rollins, because I feel like he's going to be featured in the War Games matches in Survivor Series in just about 1 month's time. But it is this weekend, 8 a.m. Eastern, which makes me kind of wonder why the last time they were in Perth with Elimination Chamber, that started at 5 a.m. Eastern and 2 a.m. Pacific. Not kind of realizing the time difference, but apparently Perth is 12 hours ahead, right? So Perth right now is 12 hours ahead, which I'm going to look up specifically, right? Yes, it is exactly 12 hours ahead of our time here in the United States. So at least on the East Coast, right? So as we're recording this, it is 5:05 p.m. on the East Coast. So it is 5:05 a.m. tomorrow in Perth, Australia. So this is going to happen at 8 o'clock Perth time, 8 a.m. Eastern time. But like I was just saying, why exactly then did this event start so early when the Elimination Chamber was there? Because I watched the Elimination Chamber at 5 a.m. Eastern time, thinking, not doing the math, thinking it must be 8 p.m. there, but not realizing it was only 5 p.m. there. So it went essentially from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. their time. Well, it went from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. our time. This one's a little bit later. I don't know if, I mean, it's a positive, I guess, right? I mean, I'm really just being silly here. I know that, you know, it does take up a little of my morning, right? I'm going to wake up and watch this. I kind of wish maybe it was like 7 or 6. Like, let's do what we did with Elimination Chamber. I personally love that. I woke up really early, sucked it up, watched it, and then was done by breakfast, like done by breakfast time, which I thought was great. And for those on the West Coast, it'll still be the same, obviously. It'll be a 5 a.m. start for you. This one, depending on how long the pay-per-view is, it'll take me like up to lunchtime on the East Coast. So it'll take up a good chunk of my morning, but I will wake up early. I will watch it. You know, the whole thing where like people are like, I'll just watch it on DVR. I'll watch it, you know, after it's already happened. I get that you can do that, but that takes away from the excitement of the live event. And I think that's one thing nowadays that we are missing, right? We hear about this, all these people who talk about they're not going to get the ESPN platform. They're just going to watch the highlights on YouTube. They're just going to catch up on it later. You know, they're going to watch what they can watch for free after the fact. And I think that takes away, right? That is one of those modern day things that isn't a positive. I don't like that so much of Raw and SmackDown is just watched in bits and pieces, and WWE kind of caters to that audience. Back in the day when Raw was 3 hours long, Triple H would tell audiences, you don't have to sit and watch it. You can just watch little bits and pieces, catch up on it when you feel like it. And I think that takes away from the organic experience of just watching something whole, live, you know, being a part of it, right? You don't watch a Super Bowl that way, and that's what makes something like that so special. So I personally, if I can, I want to watch these things live. I want to watch them as they're happening. If it was on at 5 a.m., I'd watch it at 5 a.m. If it was on at 8 a.m., I'm going to watch it at 8 a.m. And for those, I remember when I watched it live, they're like, you woke up early and watched this? And it was just funny because I'm like, well, are you or are you not a wrestling fan? Like you're getting on me like I'm one of those people who don't watch wrestling, who makes fun of the people who do watch wrestling. But it's weird when it comes from people within who are like, you woke up at 5 a.m. to watch Elimination Chamber? Like, yeah, I did. Just like I drove an hour and a half to go watch Monday Night Raw at an arena live. Like I gave money to WWE to go to an event. Like I bought a t-shirt. Like I bought a magazine. Like I purchase merchandise. Like I watch Raw when it's on live. I watch Raw on tape. Yeah, I watch wrestling, and I make a point to watch wrestling, and I go out of my way to watch wrestling. I get on planes to go watch wrestling. I drive to go watch wrestling. Like, yeah, we like the WWE. If you like the WWE, that seems very reasonable. There's all these NFL games going on overseas in Europe right now, and you know, you don't get on somebody and be like, you woke up at 9 a.m. to watch your football team play in London? Yeah, why? Just like you watched them at 1 p.m., right? You set aside time to watch them. You said, I'm not going to do anything this time. I'm going to make sure I'm home to watch them on television at 1 p.m. or 4 p.m., right? So why is 9 a.m. any different? It's no different, right? So I'm going to make time. I'm going to set my alarm. I'm going to watch this event live as it's happening. There's no reason not to. It's a very convenient time, to be honest with you. It's more convenient if it's on at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. than if it's on at 8 p.m., because like I said, there is no competition at 8 a.m. There's lots of competition for things at 8 p.m. Potentially, you know, sports season. I work in some sports production stuff, so I got to work those things. So a lot of competition, MLB playoffs right now, and I can tell you right now, as we talk about Bound for Glory later, MLB playoffs might conflict with my Bound for Glory watching, but so I'm happy for where Crown Jewel is on the calendar. I'm excited that it is on at 8 a.m. But it is another 5-match card from the WWE. That is something they just love doing nowadays. 5-match seems to be the sweet spot, right? I think Royal Rumble is like 4, but those are very long matches with the Royal Rumbles involved. But breaking down the card, right, the match we just got this past week on Monday Night Raw, when we just saw essentially 2 weeks ago the return of Roman Reigns following his injury or his beatdown, if you will, at Clash at Paris at the hands of Bronson Reed and the Vision. Well, it is now parlayed into this Australian street fight. And I liked how Paul Heyman said, Bronson Reed is undefeated at this event, at this type of match, the Australian street fight. And it's just funny because, of course, he's undefeated at an Australian street fight. What is his record in a no disqualification match in general? I'm not exactly 100% sure, but in a Australian street fight, he's undefeated. I'm going to let you in on something. In a Syracuse, New York, Route 33 specific street fight, I'm undefeated as well. Because that match has never happened before. So I can essentially say I'm undefeated in that as well. So the terminology, I love this Australian street fight, as if that means anything else. It is the only thing you ever see in wrestling, right? When they make up these street fights, when they make up these things, when they add the terminology. I remember with house shows for so many years, house shows just to be special would always add whatever city they were in. They'd be like, tonight's main event is a Rochester street fight, a Binghamton street fight, a Easton, Pennsylvania street fight. Like, it's a street fight. You just put the fun name in front of it. There's really no difference in the rules in that sense. In fact, there's a million terms in WWE for street fight. No disqualification, no holds barred. They're all the same thing. So this Australian street fight sees Bronson Reed and Roman Reigns, two big heavyweights, Vince McMahon's specialties if he was still holding it back in the day, because he loves guys like this. And I think it's going to be an entertaining match. I don't know who wins, but I'm going to guess it's Bronson Reed. I'm going to guess it's Bronson Reed because it's a street fight, right? So anyone can get involved. Braun Breaker can get involved. Paul Heyman can get involved. Now, the question is, do people get involved on behalf of Roman Reigns? I'm talking Jey Uso, talking Jimmy Uso, right? Does he got some backup? Kind of wondering, because right now, it seems like it's that bloodline situation again, where he's got, Jey and Jimmy on his side, but at the same time, there seems to be that conflict, right? Jey Uso, right? The issue he's got with LA Knight. He's going rogue on his own when it comes to that. Jimmy Uso kind of talk to Roman Reigns in the sense of are you sure you know what you're doing? Having those trepidations. So I feel like they're still going to come out and help in this match, but I think the Vision is going to help people like Bronson Reed get the victory here as we move on to a match that I think is heavy on the one person who's involved, because she's from Australia, even though it's like saying if a WWE event was held in Los Angeles, it's my hometown because I'm from America on the East Coast. And that's Rhea Ripley. She's involved with Io Sky against Kabuki Warriors in a tag team match. No tag titles or nothing like that on the line. But we've seen, obviously, this is good guys versus bad guys. Io Sky aligning herself, obviously, in the past with the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane. That similar heritage. They've stuck together. Asuka trying to help Io Sky in her match for the championship against Stephanie Vaquer at WrestlePalooza, but Io Sky kind of saying, I don't want your help, I want to go at it alone. And now it's turned into the either you're with us or against us kind of thing, and it seems like the Kabuki Warriors have decided Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, they are, the enemies now in this, right? You are against us. You are either with us or you're against us. Rhea Ripley is on the side of Io Sky in the sense of trying to tell Io Sky, listen, you don't need those guys. You're good on your own. And the Kabuki Warriors trying to leech a little bit off of the success of Io Sky. That's what created this tag team match. So Rhea Ripley, Io Sky versus the Kabuki Warriors. I imagine it's in Australia. I imagine we're going to get the good guys winning this one. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky defeating the Kabuki Warriors after obviously Asuka gave Rhea Ripley a couple weeks ago, that spit, that green mist in her face and all over her body when she spit on her. I think it was it by accident? I can't even really remember. But the point is, it kind of kicked off this feud to where we're going now. Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, they're going to get the win here. As we move on to the two Crown Jewel Championship matches, we'll start with the men's. Cody Rhodes, he is the undisputed WWE Champion at WrestlePalooza. He had no problem with Drew McIntyre in a very anticlimactic, easy pinfall. No change of championship, no excitement, no big surprise. He won the title. He retained the title that he won at SummerSlam against Drew McIntyre at WrestlePalooza. Now he takes on Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, we all know, he won his championship that he currently has at SummerSlam as well in night one when he cashed in Money in the Bank. And a little fun, kind of role that we saw Paul Heyman have backstage with Seth Rollins this past week on Monday Night Raw, where Seth Rollins asked Paul Heyman, what happens if I lose? And Paul Heyman essentially said, it's a must win. It's a must win if you want what is going on right now to stay intact. Essentially saying the vision dies if Seth Rollins loses, right? If Seth Rollins loses, he loses the locker room. He loses confidence in the people who have confidence in him. And he loses everything that he has been building since WrestleMania, aka division, right? So a lot on the plate for Seth Rollins here if he was to lose this. Now, last year was Gunther versus Cody Rhodes in this same matchup. Cody Rhodes beat Gunther clean to become the Crown Jewel champion for 2024. So who wins in 2025? I mean, that's a good question, but I'm giving it to Seth Rollins. Mainly because, as Paul Heyman said, right? If you lose, you are indeed what a lot of people think you are, and that is a secondary champion. And I think the World Heavyweight Championship is a created championship to be a secondary championship. And in order for this belt to get that level that it deserves, which it didn't get last year, right? There's a reason why Gunther and Jey Uso kicked off WrestleMania and John Cena and Cody Rhodes ended WrestleMania. There's a reason why CM Punk in his World Heavyweight Championship match against Gunther was on night 1 of WrestleMania, and John Cena and Cody Rhodes' rematch was on night 2 of WrestleMania, right? Because they're the same, but they're not. We're seeing that right now in the MLB playoffs, right? Right? I understand the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners are the same as the New York Yankees, but if you want to tell me who has the cachet, if you want to tell me which game is more important, well, you can just look at which game is getting the billing, right? The Seattle Mariners and the Detroit Tigers are getting the every single day afternoon day games, right? Detroit and Cleveland played a best of 3 series in the wild card round. Day game, day game, day game. Detroit and Seattle, right now they're playing their ALDS. Day game, day game, day game, right? Where were the Yankees in their wild card round, in their best of 3 series? Prime time, prime time, prime time. Right now, prime time. As we're recording this tonight, prime time. If it goes to game 5, prime time. That's what I think of the WWE Championship, right? John Cena, when he held the WWE Championship, when did he defend it? The opening match? No. The main event, right? Cody Rhodes, when did he win the championship and lose the championship this year at WrestleMania and SummerSlam? The main event, the main event. So, for Seth Rollins to give this belt some credibility to show that it deserves to be the last match on the card at WrestleMania, right? It deserves to be the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania, which it has never been yet. I think it's important that he wins this match and kind of shows, right, that this belt is credibility. Because like I said, Cody Rhodes beat Gunther last year, right? And Gunther is a formidable champion. I think a very legitimate champion. But unfortunately, his standing in the company and his championship standing in the company took a hit when we learned that Cody Rhodes is really, the captain of this team. Seth Rollins has a chance right here to show that his belt is the belt in WWE. I'm hoping he gets the win. I'm thinking he gets the win here. As we move on to the Raw versus SmackDown Women's Championship, as Stephanie Vaquer, who won the vacated Raw Women's Championship at WrestlePalooza, a championship that was vacated from Naomi, who is now out on pregnancy leave, right? She is currently pregnant, so she had to relinquish the belt. There was a match at WrestlePalooza between Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer was that number 1 contender for the fact that she won a Battle Royal at WWE Evolution to become the number 1 contender. And at the last pay-per-view, she defeated Io Sky to become the new Raw Women's Champion. While Tiffany Stratton, she's been champion for a little bit now. She retained the championship recently, as we saw in a very, very botched finish on SmackDown. But she is still the champion. She defeated Nia Jax some times ago and defeated her again to retain the championship. So it's Tiffany Stratton, who has been the champion since before WrestleMania, against Stephanie Vaquer for the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Now, if you remember last year's Crown Jewel Championship, we saw Liv Morgan winning the Crown Jewel Championship. Obviously, she's out in injury right now. She's not involved in the women's picture at all. But I'm guessing that Tiffany Stratton wins this match, because I'm giving it to the Raw on the men's side, so I'm giving it to SmackDown on the women's side to show who is the essential women's champion of WWE. I'm giving it to Tiffany Stratton. She has been the flag bearer for this one championship almost this whole calendar year, right? The Raw Women's Championship has kind of gone back and forth. We've had a few different holders of it. Rhea Ripley, Naomi, Stephanie Vaquer, right? Giving it to Tiffany Stratton. She's held it down all year for WWE in the women's division. I think, right, she is leaving as the Crown Jewel Women's Championship champion. As we move on to what I think will be the main event. And maybe it's not the main event. I'm not 100% sure. But it's John Cena. It's AJ Styles. It is no championship on the line. It's probably the way you'd want it, right? Because championships sometimes give away or indicate who we think is going to win the match based on the future, right? But this match, right, it's just a dream match. It's just one of John Cena's final opponents on his retirement tour because he's only got a few dates left. This is his last trip to Perth, Australia. And frankly, if WWE wasn't going to Perth, Australia, he wouldn't have a last trip to Perth, Australia, right? He doesn't have, I don't think he has a last trip to Sydney, right? He doesn't have a final appearance in some other places, right? He doesn't have a final appearance in Beijing, China on this tour, right? So yes, it's his last time in Perth, but for all intents and purposes, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's his first because WWE has made many tours of Australia and the world throughout the past in John Cena's career. So he's definitely been there before, but it's his first PLE in Perth. So his first time at a pay-per-view event in Perth is his last time at a pay-per-view event in Perth as he takes on AJ Styles in a match that essentially got started, via Twitter, right? You just kind of throw out, fans kind of throw out, are we going to see something here? When it comes to AJ Styles, I think he should face John Cena. And, well, the fans are getting what they want. AJ Styles, John Cena. The face that runs the place, John Cena, versus the face that ran TNA. And essentially has been in a career as not as necessarily notable as John Cena's, but has been there right beside him as a guy who has been there since the early 2000s in the world of pro wrestling, has kind of innovated in so many different ways. And we've seen this match before on different levels, right? We've seen this match before at like the Royal Rumble with the championship on the line. They put on some good matches. It's an opponent that I'm excited to see John Cena face, especially too because AJ Styles, he's one of those guys that seems to kind of come and go where he's out for a while, not necessarily because of injury, just because they don't necessarily have something for him. But he is a main event talent. You do forget that sometimes because, WWE kind of throws him to the wayside. A WrestleMania might happen where he's perfectly healthy. He just doesn't have a spot on it. And now we're getting to see him in this match against John Cena in Australia. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm guessing John Cena gets the win here. It doesn't do anything for John Cena if he loses. I understand. It's late in the game. It's late in his career. If he loses, like he just lost to Brock Lesnar, it doesn't do anything. But, I think John Cena gets the win here. As we know, AJ Styles' career is wrapping up. He's announced 2026 is going to be his last year in the ring. So I guess a retirement tour is on the way for him. I'm looking forward to this match. I could really see this match being the main event of this pay-per-view PLE. But I think John Cena gets the win, gets back the win that he didn't have against Brock Lesnar, which was a beatdown. But AJ Styles is no Brock Lesnar, and I think they put on a mutual good match between each other that's entertaining nonetheless. And I hope this kickstarts AJ Styles' retirement tour, and I hope he gets a similar kind of situation in 2026 with some dream opponents along the way. But right now we're in 2025. We're on John Cena's retirement tour. It is winding down, and I see Cena beating AJ Styles at Crown Jewel this Saturday in Perth, Australia. Let us know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment below and what you think might happen in this PLE. Do we see any surprises at all? I don't, because it's such a long flight that I just don't see, The Rock and other people, I don't see any of those people making the 20-hour flight to kind of make a pop-up appearance or like a surprise. I think Australia is one of those places. If you're going to make that long flight, you're probably just somebody on the card and you're involved. I don't think you're just flying all that way to just kind of do a run-in kind of thing. There is SmackDown and Raw, though, from Perth, Australia. So, a lot of guys who are not necessarily on this card, like Dominic Mysterio and Penta, who are fighting for the Intercontinental Championship on Monday morning for Monday Night Raw, will be involved, as well as a big tag team championship match on SmackDown, which is on Friday morning, which you guess it at 8 a.m. In Perth, Australia, featuring the Wyatt Six. So a lot of events from the Rack Arena is what it's called. And I find it kind of funny because it's from the Rack Arena, which holds 15,000. So this isn't from the stadium that they had Elimination Chamber at, where they had like 40,000 people at it, right? This one's from an arena that fits about 15,000, very similar to like an Americanized arena. But on Wikipedia, it says the Perth Arena, known commercially as the Rack Arena, is a entertainment and sporting arena in the city of Perth, which is in Western Australia. And I just find it funny, like, are we allowed to, and are things elsewhere called not what they're commercially called, like, right? I've never seen Wikipedia say the Chicago Cubs Stadium, commercially known as Wrigley Field, or Miami Marlins Park, commercially known as Lone Depot Park, or Dallas Cowboys Stadium, commercially known as AT&T Stadium, right? I feel like the commercially known name of it is the name of it, unless it's got some real historical significance, right? But, the name is the name, right? Oracle Park in San Francisco is not San Francisco Giants Ballpark, commercially known as Oracle Park, right? Rogers Center isn't known Blue Jays Stadium, commercially known as Rogers Center, right? That's just not how it works. It's the name, right? Rack Arena should be Rack Arena. I don't live in Perth, but I guess people in Perth might call it Perth Arena for some reason. I don't know why. Probably because, they don't have the same sports teams as well here as they do in other places. I know they have sports teams, but one thing I noticed when I was like in London, right, the O2 Arena, a very famous arena, a very big arena. They host tons of events, but they don't have like a team like we're used to in North America that is their home, right? In America, Madison Square Garden, right? You got the Knicks, you got the Rangers, right? In Toronto, you got the Raptors and the Maple Leafs in Cleveland, right? You know the saying, So when you go to these arenas, and you see banners hanging, you see a store, selling merchandise for the team that calls that place home. But in the O2 Arena, they don't have like an NBA team. They don't have an NHL team. There's no kind of big team that plays there. It's just a generic arena. There isn't banners hanging for the team that calls that place home. It is not the home ice or home court of any team. And I know like they have, Australian basketball and things like that call that place home. But, there's no like major sports team that we're well aware of, because obviously in those countries, soccer is the major sport. Even rugby, I would say, is a bigger sport there in Australia. So, these arenas are just there to host big events. Not necessarily built to house a sporting team necessarily, specifically. So maybe that's why they just call it like the arena in Perth. Because, they don't necessarily refer to it on television too often, right? This is probably an arena that doesn't see a lot of TV time because, again, they don't have a lot of sports teams that play there. I could be very wrong, though, about all of this. I could be making this all up and be completely wrong, and the Australian National Basketball League could be huge and bigger than the NBA for all I know. If I'm wrong, let me know. But either way, that is where Crown Jewel will be this week. And after that, we will talk about Crown Jewel's post stuff on the show next week.